Let's see.
It's like a wedding.
I heard you were sick, so I went.
No, no, I'm fine.
Oh, you're fine.
You can shun.
I had it.
I got two little kids, they're always sick.
Don't have a third.
Actually.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, don't have a third because if you say that, never cycles.
It's already. I gotta give it on.
Okay, on to order the January 2025 Board of Supervisors organizational meeting. Can everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up on the agenda is the election of the Board of Supervisors Chair and Vice Chair for 2025. Both the Chair and Vice Chair. And are we allowed to do Chair and Vice Chair together, or do we need to parse them out?
Probably do them separately, it's best.
Sure. So it's been a pleasure serving East Town as Chair for the past year, and I'm happy to continue in that role. As anyone of the new supervisors as previously served before wants to take that position, I'm going to continue with that. It's been a pleasure being chair, and I'd like to continue serving and support me. So I'm going to make a motion to approve myself or motion.
I think that's what.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other board comment? And I agree. I like rotations. I'm looking forward to maybe Alex, Sean, or Susan stepping out to be chair, and looking forward to when they do. But I'm okay with the status quo right now. Is there any public comment? No comments on. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Next up, we have vice chair. Similar to my service, it's also been a pleasure to have Mike as serving as vice chair. He has obviously a wealth of experience. He has the most experience I've been on the board currently. I think he's willing. I'd like to nominate him for vice chair. Or not. Does anyone else have an interest in serving as vice chair?
You don't want to do it?
What is the job?
Going for the chair when they're not available.
It would be a great way to fill in on occasion if required, but otherwise, I will make a motion to approve Sean as vice chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any board comment?
You can.
Is there any public comment? Online comments?
No.
All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is the appointment of PA State Association of Township Supervisors, PSATs, voting delegate for 2025. I believe in the past, Michael, you've served as delegate. Is that something you're interested in continuing? Is anyone else interested in serving as voting delegate for PSATs?
This involves attending the annual conference. When is it?
Don, do you know the exact date?
I do not. I have. So,
There's something we can change. If there's a scheduling conflict, right? Like the
Yeah.
delegate issues now don't change it anytime.
yeah, you could appoint an alternate as well. When the time comes. So it looks like it's May 4th to the 7th. Not, one of those days is the business meeting. May.
The fourth to the seventh.
Yes.
I can tentatively approve or attend. I'll figure it out.
And I can serve as an alternate, so. that's- So I'll make a motion to appoint Alex as voting delegate. And then, do I have a second? Any other board comment? Any public comment? Nothing online. All in favor of appointing Alex as voting delegate for 2025 PSAT, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, next up we have staff appointments. First up, we have assume Don for your township manager, secretary, treasurer.
Yes, that's correct.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is the appointment for the chief of police.
I would like to make a motion to approve the day officers and the police. This is the wrong statements.
I'll second that motion. Board comment?
David has been a fantastic chief of police, been hope for more. Unfortunately, he's decided that he may be leaving us sometime soon, so, which is sad. But I look forward to him being here for at least another year. I think it's fantastic for the residents.
And I agree with that. Second, David, if you know, trying to service to the township, it's greatly appreciated. Any public comment? All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Eric, if you want, I can read the slate that's currently serving in Item C.
That'd be great. Thank you.
John Ewald as Assistant Manager and Assistant Township Secretary, Sue Lally as Director of Finance, Colleen Gray as Director of Planning and Zoning, and Joe Rodo as Director of Public Works. You've just customarily.
I'll make that motion to because we're, so I have a second.
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to consultant appointments.
If you want, I can read the person, or I can tell you the person that's currently holding the position. And you do have a process where you evaluate alternatives. None of these were scheduled to be evaluated this time. The one that you did evaluate, you did do a handful of evaluations. They're just not part of this.
Very good. And should we deal with these individually?
It's up to you. It's probably, if you had a separate RFP and evaluation, you'd probably carve those out, but as Don said, there's not any individual evaluation this year, so it's the board's discretion.
Yeah, they're all incumbents that,
Right, that's kind of what I assumed. So what,
you want to just read?
if
all
you
the
could read them off,
Yeah.
maybe we'll just go through them.
So township solicitor is Andrew Rao, Unruh Turner, Burke and Freeze. Labor attorney is Patrick Harvey of Campbell Durant PC. PC solicitor is Tom Esty of Buckley, Bryan, McGuire and Morris. Conflict solicitor is Michael Crotty of Sienna Law. Township engineer is Brady Flaherty of Carroll Engineering. Township planner landscape architect is Tom Comita of Tom Comita and Associates. Traffic engineer is Chris Williams of Bauman Consulting. Building code official is Rob McLaren of Keystone Municipal Services. Human resource consultant is Roseanne McGrath of Roseanne McGrath Consulting. And the auditor is Carl Hogan of BBD.
Very good. I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of those consultants. Do I have a second? Any other board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consultant appointments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to boards and commissions appointments. Board of Supervisors vacancy board chair. Don, do we have, I didn't see anything in the agenda packet for these individual.
It was in the confidential part because we're keeping the names out of the public part, obviously. So you had two applicants. I can tell you the applicants if you want. And then two of you were presumably given the applications, and it's my understanding, I forget which two, but it was a subset of commissioners who reviewed the applicant, or supervisors who reviewed applicants.
I do not believe I saw these applications.
Mike and I were,
We could make a
vacancy
recommendation.
board. Mike, you're stepping down.
You have our recommendation.
I'm sure.
You're looking, okay, I have to get back to my email.
You only had two, if Michael isn't doing it,
Yes.
it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Correct.
yeah, so, Clark Buchanan was the other candidate.
So then I need to reappoint, because I always want to do this one at a time. I need to reappoint. Buck Buchanan. And board supervisor, but,
Is that traditionally the we've done it? Why can we have this last year?
I don't, Andy, does it matter whether you do them all at one time, or, I mean, some of them might have the date, some of them might have discussion, probably easier to do them, one at a time.
Yeah, again, it's for discretion, but since you occasionally have had discussion on the appointments, it's probably simply procedural.
And some of them have multiple candidates for less than the position, some don't, so. Probably just as easy to go through them.
Sure. So the recommendation was to approve Buck Buchanan.
that's a motion, yes. Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Any other board comment?
And that is for vacancy board?
That is for vacancy. None, any public comment? All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. All right, next up on the agenda.
EAC,
is the
ECAC,
ECAC.
excuse me. And for ECAC, there were 5 applicants, and the ECAC would like to ask you to appoint all 5. So to expand to that, so I can read you the names of the 5, that was what the recommendation from the ECAC. Alessandra Nicholas and Howard Haas, they're incumbents, and new members would be James Fox, Charles Reinhardt, and Gary Shigro.
Very good. We have a motion.
I'm going to appoint them to the East Town Citizen Advisory.
I'll second that. Do you have any other board comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the proposed motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Move on to
EMA,
EMA.
EMA has
Actually,
2 applicants.
what about the library board of trustees?
Very good. That had, the library recommended 2 applicants, there were 3 positions. I can read the intent and read the names that the 2 library recommended. Janet Fry and Stacy were.
Is there a motion?
So
I'll second that motion to approve their appointments to the East Town Library Board of Trustees. Is there any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the proposed appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Moving on to the EMA.
We have two applicants for two positions. Kevin McCauley is an incumbent and Joseph Mongaluzi in the.
They were recommended from, by the EMA.
Or, sorry, motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reappoint Kevin McCauley and appoint, the Joseph Mongaluzi.
Yes.
I'll second that. Any other board comment? Any public comment? Okay, all in favor of the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Ayes have it. Next up is emergency management.
David Wild Pure is the only applicant, correct? Sue?
I'll make a motion to approve their appointment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other board comments? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the appointments of the emergency management coordinator, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Moving on to EAC.
We had two applicants. The EAC recommended reappointing Gary Ellis.
I'll make a motion to approve the reappointment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the appointments to the EAC, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Ayes have it. Moving on to the historical commission.
Two applicants for two positions. HC recommended reappointing Bill Friedrich and also appointing Maurice Weintraub.
Take a motion to approve the appointment, second.
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the appointment to the historical commission, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Ayes have it. Moving on to the planning commission.
One applicant for one position, Stacy Ballard.
And the from State's dollars.
Yes,
Is she?
she's on the EMA. She'd have to resign from the EMA. And that's actually, yeah, she resigned from the EMA.
She did resign.
Just wanted to make sure.
And then that additional position for Joe, that's my recollection, I feel Phil Stacy.
That's why there were two.
Yeah, sure.
Very good. All in favor, or is there a motion?
There's a motion. Or a second.
Oh.
Oh, good. Okay.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of $60 to the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Ayes have it. Move on to the stormwater management advisory.
Two positions, both incumbents. The recommendation from the SMAC is to reappoint the incumbents, Roy Litwettel and Stephen Fantastic.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Roy and Stephen. They've been great.
I'll second that. Any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Ayes have it. Moving on to zoning hearing board.
Yeah, this one, you also have somebody that, or I forget who it was, but a subset of supervisors who reviewed it. It's a little trickier. You had two applicants, both incumbents, Bill Howard and Stephen Harper. One of the, Stephen Harper is the alternative, so you decide in the order that you want them. One of the alternatives asked to be appointed as a non-alternative. So if you maintain the current platform, it would be Bill Howard as the member and Stephen Harper as the alternate.
This is the HP. The HP, who's on the, who's. Essentially bus.
I don't remember who you
Yeah.
put in a subgroup. We sent the resumes.
Okay.
We don't send it.
Yes.
you decide as a board whether you're taking a position on. You've decided legislatively that certain items come to you for that. That's a call on your position, usually involving environmental ordinances and electronic rules and so on. But you don't attend the meeting.
You don't have to work with the recommendation. I don't remember, I don't think we solicited one because there was somebody assigned to your group designed for it. So both indicated they wanted to be reappointed.
Well, I'll make a motion to. Slide a second. Any other more comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And we still don't have a UCC Board of Appeals member that's been vacant for years. It has never met, it might never meet, it's so, had trouble filling it. It's not a terribly high priority since it's not likely that. It hasn't met in my tenure here.
I thought they tried to meet 2 years ago. Wasn't there somebody in like Malvern or Willistown or something?
Yeah, but that's out of East County.
Yeah, they might have tried.
I think it got resolved.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think it did before hearing.
So they ran out the clock instead.
So we posted it a lot, there just isn't there isn't a lot of interest because I don't know why there's not a lot of interest, if there's probably not a lot of interest to join a group that never meets, like you might not feel like you're doing the people's work.
Is it posted online?
It's been posted, you know, whether it's posted right this second, I don't know, but there were multiple passes to get interest in it, and still no interest. And it was it posted as part of this recent round? Yeah, so it was posted as part of the recent round.
Right. Moving on to resolutions. First up is the resolution designating depository township.
Yeah, these are all perfunctory in nature that reach each reward.
And so what is the motion that I'm making?
That checks from payroll have the signature of two members.
I'll make that motion. About a second.
This others also members who can sign checks and payroll.
Any other comments?
Weren't we discussing, and I hate to bring this up now, weren't we discussing potentially moving to a bank that was within the district since they moved out of our borders?
I don't know if you've discussed it, it's been discussed at the staff level. Just isn't something that I think you're in. I don't think now's the time
No,
to do those kind of changes.
I agree, and that's why I said I hesitate to say it now, but I think that was the idea, was we kind of kicked around, hey, we should move, but yeah, I'm fine with doing this now and then considering that potentially in the future.
Yeah, it's not a little thing to change bank.
No, agreed, especially with as many accounts as we have. What do we have, 17? What is it?
That's second. Yeah, okay. Any other board comment? Any public comment? None, all in favor of the resolution designating depository of Keystone Township, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to the resolution authorizing a assembly signature. What is it? Authorizing the facsimile signature?
Certain mostly payroll when we send money to the pension funds. The payroll company creates a check and the signatures are facsimile signatures.
I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Board comment?
Just to note, the board still authorizes those payments, it's just a function issue.
Very good, thank you. Any public comment? None, all in favor of the motion to approve the resolution authorizing a facsimile signature, say aye. Aye, opposed. Ayes have it. Next up is a resolution setting treasurer's bonds.
Discuss what you've done. in the past, cost you about $4,500. I shouldn't say custom, it has a very distinct purpose. The amount is the traditional amount that you've had for years.
And that's been, I think within the last 2 years, staff looked at that with the auditor to set that current.
This is covered,
Myself and Sue.
not that, not county. But we changed it to cover his system.
Not aware, if you want it, I don't know if, there's not a functional distinction between me and John from the perspective of, access to the funds. So up to you if you want that added.
If they both have equal access to funds, like, that's always the gold star, so I recommend having John as well.
Yeah, that's a motion.
Think so.
Okay, great. I'll make that motion. Second treasurer's bonds, second.
Second.
Any other board comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, second treasurer's bonds, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Next is the resolution establishing emergency service coverage of Easttown Township.
Again, customary something to do each year.
I'll make a motion to approve the establishment of the emergency service coverage of Easttown. Is there a second?
I'll second. Did this change from last year?
No.
Great.
Any other public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
I have a question about all of them, or relate to all of them.
Sure.
We have a facsimile signature for facts. We don't do anything like that for EFT. Like, is there any equivalence for EFT?
EFT is something is,
You know, when you pay by electronically. The new way that you're paying things electronically.
well, we just follow the process that the bank set up, which
Right.
has multiple approvals, so the only difference between the electronic payment and the non-electronic, instead of a signature, it's an electronic approval.
Like, it should be authorized to use that electronically.
Yeah, that's something to think about. You know, we're not ready for it now, right? You know.
But it's similar, the facsimile signature is exactly the same thing as that approval, right there, they're roughly.
I think it's the same logic, right? Yeah.
Okay, I should know.
And it is a, you know, it helps. Nothing gets approved electronically until you approve it at the meeting, so.
Right.
All right, very good. We will be heading over to the regular agenda, but first, before we do that, is there any public comment regarding the organizational meeting? Any online? Hearing none, move to adjourn the January 6th organizational meeting. Is there a second?
Second. Do we have to do the pledge again?
Yes, 2 pledges. Now we can break this relatively quick. We get started with the January 6th regular meeting agenda for the Easttown Township Board of Supervisors. First up is the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that. Is there any board comments or any items anyone to pull out? None. Are there any, is there any public comment? There are none. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is board motions, presentations, and resolutions. First up is the resolution designated emergency services providers.
Yeah, so I would say this is perfunctory in nature. Michael, Susan, elaborate if I don't describe it correctly. Your fire administrator needs this to have access to information at the county. So it's largely aligned to just empower the fire administrator to be able to access EMS data. Michael and Susan, if I didn't capture it correctly, tell me, tell us if that capture it.
Yes. Like I can't talk to the county. They use this event, introduction is the same thing, right? So, yeah, that's the part.
Very good. Sorry.
The way it's titled, designate emergency service providers. You designate their own payroll every year.
We just did that one resolution ago. I just left well enough alone on that because it's going to have, it's going to achieve the, and for what it's worth, that's why we put it second and after your.
So technically you approve the mapping of coverage.
Did.
And you're approving the providers.
And we did marginally change the whereas language to indicate that you have already approved the map.
We sort of find it. Thanks.
Other way around, you separated it, True Different did it all in one, you separated it, following your usual protocol, same outcome.
Very good. Well, I'll make a motion to approve that resolution. Do I have a second? Any other board comment? Is there any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the resolution designating the emergency service providers, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Next up is the resolution extending the temporary outdoor restaurant business, retail, and commercial activities.
So this one just came up in COVID. Since COVID, you have done this every year. And it's kind of, there are a few things that if you don't approve it, you probably would have the obligation to do things differently. So the thought is that there were no negative aspects of the outdoor dining. You should solidify that. But until you solidify it, it should be approved.
When is the next opportunity to solidify it?
Omnibus is what we're thinking.
When do we
This
think we
year.
can do? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, and this is one of those resolutions that just that makes sense since COVID. I mean, outdoor dining seems to be something that is worked out for the community.
And arguably, nobody complains, so, it's like a 6-year history of, or a 4-year history where people aren't complaining.
And I think originally the board did this temporarily because they wanted to see how it goes. So even though if you approve this, it gives you another year. In the resolution, it says you can extend it, you can shorten it at any time. So if you run into a problem, you can change it. Or as Don said, if you codify permanent standards as part of the zoning ordinance or the standard ordinance, you can do that too.
Very good. Well, I'll make a motion to approve that resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'm all in favor of approving the resolution extending temporary outdoor restaurant business, retail, and commercial activities, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Moving on to the ordinance regarding pickleball noise. Andy, you want to just walk us through this one?
Sure, and board will recall you've discussed the pickleball and noise question in a number of meetings. At the last public meeting, you authorized advertisement of this ordinance, and it's now been advertised, it's been sent to the Daily Local News, the Chester County Law Library, so all the procedural prerequisites are in place if the board wishes to act on the ordinance itself tonight. And as you discussed in those past meetings, it essentially creates timing for the plainly audible standard. And that would be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The decibel limits still apply. And we've had detailed discussion and public comment on some community views on that. So it doesn't take anything away from your current ordinance. But what it does do is it adds specific time limitations. And these also mirror the time limitations that the YMCA itself said it was binding itself.
Very good. Thank you, Andy. And I know this is not a solution that I think makes everyone happy. I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of addressing the problems that many university water are experiencing. That was the reason why I stated my hesitation to approving this, but it's something the Y has agreed to. I think it imposes reasonable measures. And I'll make a motion to approve and enact.
466-25.
Says, providing for amendments to chapter 278 of the Easttown Township Code titled Noise, specifically section 278-4 to address pickleball activities, time and standards in Easttown Township. No second. Do I have any public comment? Do you have any public comment?
Sir, this with you.
Just state, if you can you state your name and let you know this. Sure.
Sure. For the record, my name is Joseph Gattusi. I'm an attorney. I represent the YMCA. My firm, Stradley Ronan, represents the YMCA, Greater Brandywine, including the Upper Mainline branch of the YMCA. Appreciate the time of year tonight. I do have just a few remarks that I'd like to share with the board, also with the community. As everyone's aware, the YMCA is a nonprofit organization that has operated in Easttown Township for many decades, for 60 years. The YMCA provides social recreational programs that are designed and intended to promote youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. The Upper Mainline campus for the YMCA hosts a variety of indoor and outdoor recreational activities, and its programs serve and benefit over 5,000 individuals of all ages, all abilities. While pickleball has grown in popularity, it is not a new activity at the YMCA. It's been there and existed for several years. More recently, though, pickleball has grown in popularity and in usage both across the country and also at the YMCA. And we want to make it clear that pickleball is something that's beneficial. It's grown in popularity for several reasons. First, there are many beneficial health impacts. For instance, the sport and activity has proven to promote heart health, bone strength, improve balance, coordination, brain activity. It's also a very accessible activity. What I mean by that is, given the nature of the sport, the dimensions, it's something that is appealing and available to people of all different ages, all different ability and skill level. And I'll just note on that point, the senior demographic, which is traditionally a demographic that is suspect to not having access to activities and having some physical limitations. This is something that that demographic is found to find the sport to be welcoming and supportive. So pickleball at the Upper Mainline YMCA provides all these important social and physical benefits to its members, both within the local community and within neighboring communities. The YMCA to date has ensured that pickleball activity, like all its other outdoor recreational activities, is complying with the law. And that pertains to land development, to code, including noise ordinances. It has from time to time tested on its own to ensure that it's complying with the township's code, and it has fully cooperated with the township to further ensure its compliance. I'll just note, in April of this past year, at a time when every single pickleball court was in use, the township did test on the YMCA's property and in the surrounding areas, and reported back to the YMCA, the sound generated from pickleball is not in violation of the Easttown Township Code. And testing also ensued at a pickleball tournament this past June. In addition, as the board did note, the YMCA has good faith voluntarily modified its hours of operation for pickleball and has continued to monitor the use of its pickleball courts to ensure compliance. We will continue to do that. The YMCA is also a responsible outlet for recreational activities, including pickleball. Its courts are safe, they're monitored, and they're made available to responsible participants. Additionally, as we noted in our prior communication, the YMCA, in addition to its testing, has considered other potential mitigating options, even though it's in compliance with the law. Respectfully, we do disagree with the suggestion that pickleball is a nuisance. As I explained, like all the other outdoor recreational activities, pickleball is something that's socially, physically enriching and beneficial to the community. We do not believe that pickleball is something that would be akin to things like demolition activities, commercial drilling, motorbikes, lawnmowers, and other types of equipment in the code section that's going to be amended or proposed to be amended. Our view is that this is a standard recreational activity occurring at a recreational use site that's been in existence for quite some time. Given the recent proposed amendment, some of the comments that have been expressed at prior meetings, sort of suggesting potential litigation, the YMCA did engage myself and Stradley Ronan to represent its interest. But that said, we do want the township and we do want the residents to know that we are taking this seriously. And that we are going to continue to collaborate with residents, and we are also going to be available to speak with the township. And what I would propose as a first step, I will provide, again, my name is Joseph Catuzzi. I'm happy to provide my contact information, and I'd like to be a conduit by which, if there's any specific complaints, specific grievances, I would ask that you direct them to my attention, so that way we can meaningfully and properly assess and review them. We're committed, deeply committed to working with the township, working with the residents to address any noise concerns, while at the same time protecting the interests that goes to the heart of the YMCA, which is being able to deliver these recreational activities, many of which are outdoors. That's the extent of my comment. And again, I will provide the township solicitor, Mr. Rao, I'll send over my contact information. Again, my name is Joseph Catuzzi, and the email address I'm happy to share as well. Chris.
So Mr. Catuzzi, keeping in mind that what's before the board now is this ordinance amendment. Does the YMCA have any comments on this ordinance that's before the board tonight?
I mean, I think the only comment that really we share is that we appreciate that there's different restrictions on certain uses in the code. Obviously, you don't want to have drilling and demolition activities occurring, or ATVs, lawnmowers in certain hours. I understand that. The comment that we just share is that we think pickleball is not akin to those categories. We just don't see that. But that said, and I would just reiterate, the sentiment that we want the township, the sentiment that we want the community to understand is that we are taking this seriously. And again, I think a good step would be for you to be a conduit by which, if there's specific concerns, specific issues, send them over to me and we will address them and review them appropriately. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Rao.
I have a quick question. So the ordinance it just outlines the hours that the upper mainline line is provided to us. Is that something that is comfortable with and agrees to those limitations that it itself set for the township?
I mean, we're going to, those are the hours that we've set forth, and we're going to continue. I believe that there's no intention of deviating from that. Understandably, we just would express that we don't see this as something that, again, have bound upon us, right? I mean, but that being said, I don't believe the YMCA has at this time any intention of changing those hours.
And I guess just kind of the point I'm getting at is we're trying to model the ordinance based on what the Y itself has agreed to. So, or has agreed to its hours to, and I just want to make sure that the Y is fully aware of that. Obviously, as counsel, you acknowledge that you have no additional comments to make in relation to this ordinance, right?
Yep.
Just to finish up the question in the spirit of your comments.
Sure.
This is an indication that the Y is going to have discussions or be able to collaborate with the residents in the community. There is going to be dialogue and discussion.
Yeah, I fully anticipate that would happen. And look, I mean, I did watch the last few meetings and heard some of the concerns and understand that there were suggestions of potential lawsuits, which is why yours truly is here. But that being said, we want to have dialogue with our neighbors as anyone would. We have no intentions of having anyone upset. So I do anticipate that there will be dialogue, and again, my proposed first step would be, my contact information will be available to the township, is available to neighbors, and if there's any, the only thing I would say is just if there's specific concerns, that way with as much detail, we can then meaningfully review them. But I anticipate we're gonna continue to have a dialogue.
Sure.
I have two questions. One is, you listed a whole bunch of wonderful things about pickleball, no question about that. But you left off the negative things about pickleball. You didn't talk about the sound problems that it creates, and you just have to open up the newspaper. Not that people do anymore, but to see all the problems that pickleball is creating around this country. So if you just, like, you left out facts. I would ask you, when you make these statements, to present all the facts, not just the facts that are, we're not in the don't just present the facts that are positive to you, present all the facts, and let's have a discussion about that. That makes sense, or?
Yeah, look, like I said, our view is that pickleball is a standard activity. It's something that we're gonna monitor. Necessarily like tennis or like t-ball or like any other sport does produce some noise, and
But it's different. It's a point sign. It's very different than any other sport. Just accept that fact. That's a reality. Let's figure out what we can do about it. Okay? That's what I want. This
That
may
was-
be-
And that's my point about collaboration. That's the key. I think that we really are hoping that the Y lives up to its mission statement to collaborate and work with the community. That's what I'm hoping. I think many of the board members, I can't speak for all the board members, but I think that's in the spirit of what you're saying. That's what we see.
understood. And
And my second question is, and I may not be allowed to ask this, so you let me know. Are you doing this pro bono?
am I doing this pro bono?
Mhm.
Look, I
Yes or
can't,
no?
I can't disclose the payment relationship.
I don't care.
Between the,
Okay.
again, the YMCA.
I'm concerned because one of the things that why I came up with was they could spend 180,000 and they wanted us to help them. And if they're spending money on a lawyer, that's money that is not going to go to the sound deadening material. That's money. I'm very concerned about that.
So more of a comment than a question, but
It
understand.
turned into a question because apparently I'm not allowed to ask the question.
But you can ask the question, the
Yes.
lawyer doesn't have to answer in correct cases.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to ask Mr. Cruz a question? Is there any other public comment? I'll go after whoever.
Wait, yes, Michael DeFlavia, 125 Bartholomew. My comment is, the counselor spoke about collaboration. But I haven't seen much yet, or heard much about the Y actually collaborating with the neighbors. And it seems to me that the offer to call the lawyer is not an offer by the Y to actually collaborate. That's not good faith to me. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
This. So did you have your hand there? Oh, okay.
I'll let that
Thank someone online? Michael Terry. Sorry if I butchered that.
Good evening. My name is Michael Dietola, resident of Berwyn. And my comment is that I'm quite surprised about the specificity of this amendment to the ordinance, especially after having attended the public meeting at the end of the year, where it sounded as if basically the forum of the Board of Supervisors was not the right forum for this matter to be resolved. And then to have in such a short time this amendment to the noise ordinance on the table is just very surprising, and wondering what the rationale is for this change.
Just on behalf of the board, I don't know that it's a change at all. What the board has discussed is some limitations on what a public body does and doesn't do. But in my view, this ordinance is clearly within those parameters, and as the board members have stated, it's a logical initial step to deal with what the township said it would do.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, Craig Ritchie, Easttown Township. When I asked, why, even though now you're talking so much about noise. So, why are you doing this appeal based on no basis? So, why not make an ordinance to protect an established place? Say, that their hours were up until 10, until they recently pulled it down, maybe about 4 months ago. But anyway, where tennis plays at that time, and so you're basically, why dismantle Umley in any way when they were here first, pretty much, before all these. And so there are also some complaints about the camps. They used to be award-winning camps, and people complain about the noise on the camps with joyous voices of kids, and it's just a good thing. So the neighbors bought their property with Umley before them. Umley, which is a Class 1 historical resource, here since the 60s. But then when I talked to her own permits, Colleen, so she said that really doesn't do anything or mean anything. And it should mean something. It should mean a lot. And you guys maybe could fight to make the historically more valuable. So this ordinance you plan on voting today is actually an attack on Umley for the most part. Umley pickleball was approved. Township harassed Umley management when they should have recused themselves from the beginning. I mentioned it at the meeting at Beaumont School that are approved at the township, but that are approved, and the township scrambled that part of the meeting. So there was a taxes meeting, and then all of a sudden, when it came to the pickleball, it's like you can't really put anything together. Why did that happen? Umley is not a preserve or a graveyard. Maybe some of these residents, they saw the sign when they bought it. So I don't like the threatening to the effect, you Umley complainers from the board, better come, you Umley and the complainers better come up with a compromise. This is at the meeting at Beaumont. Or you both will be very unhappy with what I come up with. That was from the board, followed by, then all of a sudden it was removed. So when you look at the video, it was you in the middle, Mr. Unger, that said that, and then all of a sudden, everything, that's the only thing that got deleted. You can see your voice, your mouth moving, but that's taken away. Were you going too far? Was that legal? Why are you using a stenographer at the last meeting when it is so clear to record live or on Zoom, and Zoom people hear so clearly? So it's like everybody can hear it. So why are you using the stenographer? Why don't you just record it and then play it like you should have been on the Beaumont? Also, their unethical bias, wink or nod to the complainers. So after the Beaumont meeting, one of you gentlemen, one of you men, just looked at the complainers and gave them a nod like, we got your back. And maybe you can look at that, look for that. I think that was biased and unfair. You need to check if that's on video. Okay, at the last meeting, the board member angrily said, Umley manager
Is that all you came up with? Meaning, acoustics. And then a threat before the last meeting was, and then they said, what have you, basically what he was talking like this, what have you done for us lately? And that's not a good enough. And he's talking like real angrily, and so it's just like, I think, we're approved. That place is thumbs up. And right now, without this ordinance, right now, we tested it with the the noise, what do you call it, whatever, the meters, then we would have passed, we passed today based on that, but now you're trying to slip this in so fast. And so, which only could have come from the town, so that meeting, then there was a threat about only pickleball being totally taken away. So everybody's like, what the heck, everybody? And I said, where else could that have come from other than the township? And then after that meeting, and Brett was here, you said, oh, there was never any threat to pickleball. It was just, it was never, just be relaxed about that. Okay, Umley is an established, good for health and wellness nonprofit. Many who work there say they don't do it for the money. They are so stretched, not just their job, but the constant seminar classes that are endless, including life-saving techniques, doesn't equal the cost of living. So harassing any employees is what it is, unfair advantage. Philadelphia Inquirer had an article from Top Docs. Yes, pickleball, you may see orthopedic, but overall, because of fun, health, and longevity, they give it a green light. Based on the township harassment, that proposal was made under duress. So there's a lot of people who are players that have left, and they don't want to play in these other places because they have lights there. They can't come home from work and make it work at 7 o'clock. And so the staff said it's always just one or two. Okay, so when it's always just one or two but they call back. This is about the complainers over and over. This is when they bumped it back up to 10 for a night, and everybody came in droves, and it was like, hey, and then all of a sudden they called over and over and over, and just wouldn't stop, and they kept changing their voices, and and then staff knew it was the same people over and over, and then
Sir, the comment is on this very discrete and specific ordinance. Do you have anything more on this ordinance?
It's I'm getting to the end, but it's just,
I don't think, paraphrasing the inquiry, what we're talking about is this ordinance. So if you have a comment on the ordinance.
the ordinance is pretty much for life. And when paddles, I was in Tennisburg and I did that for a living, and now all of a sudden, I know the paddles are getting quieter and quieter and all around. Yeah, soon, because it's growing so much and they're getting closer to neighborhoods, we're so far apart compared to all these others. But anyway, many of the others, so many. But anyway, these paddles are going to be eventually required to be quiet. So if you etch this in stone for life, how dare you?
Thank you for that comment. And it's that point, our ordinance is permanent, maybe changed at any time.
And you have the legislative power to amend your ordinance.
So hypothetically, if paddles became quieter, there was not as much noise, the board could very easily change the ordinance, but it's not ordinance.
It could be a cultural change, it could also be an ordinance change. I'd also just note very broadly that the commenter was discussing threats and harassment. This has been a public process. A lot of people in this room are repeat visitors. The public process is not always easy, and people have strong views, and that's why the process goes the way it does. But not everyone's going to be happy.
In answer to your question,
That wasn't a question, sorry.
I mean, but in answer to you asking me, about the ordinance, so I've talked to Colleen so many times, and all along she's been saying, we don't have jurisdiction. We didn't make that decision, we don't make that decision, we can't. And now all of a sudden, you guys are rushing this through, and you own us, and it's like, so she said, now it's not even about fairness, it's not about noise. It's not even about,
And I just
com-
want to
common
jump in
sense.
that I'm not agreeing that Colleen, I doubt that Colleen's expressing.
No, no, I do, I absolutely
She
agree.
did, she did.
Hearing the public comment does not equal assent. to that.
I'm the son of a Penn law grad and teacher, and I come from a world of attorney friends and et cetera. So I'm honest. So, but Colleen did say all those things, I promise you.
So I have a problem with categorizing this as an attack on the Y by requiring their hours to be decreased. Just to exaggerate
Yeah, let me
the
explain.
situation, hang on, to exaggerate the situation, let's say they're operating 24 hours and you had pickleball players coming in at 3 in the morning. Is that something that we could then reduce the hours to? I think that would be reasonable. So if it's, their hours are operating until 10, 11, 12, whatever it is, to then require it to be in conformance with the rest of our noise ordinance that we have. I don't think that's unreasonable, so I don't think that's an attack on the law.
No, hold on one second. These hours aren't hours that you put out the hat. These are hours that only came to us. So it's not even something that we're posting
Under the
on the
regs.
lot. And it's something that can be changed. It's not something that, we are telling them they have to do. It's something that only has agreed. It's a reasonable range, and we're just enacting an ordinance to provide that range. It's lawful. Not that it's lawful beforehand, but just that it sets parameters and expectations for the community. It's not in any way intended to be an attack. This has not been rushed. This has been brewing over the course of 6 months, maybe longer at this point. And so I just want to address the comment in that regard. But you're heard. Thank you for making
It's
your
an attack,
comments.
it's an attack because, we're the only ones that are established as we are.
And I think just to keep the meeting moving along, we're going to move on to see if there are any other public comments that anyone else has to make. Is there anything else in mind? Okay, and to made the motion, we had a second, there's public comment.
That's right.
Sorry, I lost track.
So the board action, based on the motion would be a vote on approval.
All in favor of approving the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is the ordinance regarding media and communications board. This is a.
Sure. And this is as a result of, I think the chair taking the lead in helping the board think about crafting the communications advisory panel. The only thing that I did was essentially take those talking points that we discussed in the prior meeting and try to put them in my best effort into ordinance form. And this would go under your administrative legislation section of the code. You've got a number of boards, commissions, and committees already under that section. If you were comfortable with this, what you would be doing tonight, if the board is in favor of it, is to authorize advertisement, but it would create the Easttown Township Media Communications Advisory Board. Just a couple of notes, I think that Eric and the board discussed that terms would be not necessarily a straight 3 years, but up to 3 years, and that the board could stagger those. In some of your ordinances, you create very strict parameters on the staggering. On this one, including because it's an advisory panel, I made it a little more loose that the board can make appointments in a staggered manner in your discretion. So if at any time you think there ought to be 2 more 1-year terms and 2 more 3-year terms, you can do that however you want it under the ordinance. The ordinance draft also makes clear that the meetings are part of the Sunshine Act. documentation is part of the right to know law. I broadened a few things, for instance, the draft had a discussion of public access on cable, and I kind of created that more broadly, not just to identify one technology. But otherwise, it's really open to what the board wants to do and if it wants to make any revisions, or whether it feels like it's ready to be advertised.
But I feel like it's ready to be advertised. And thank you for the additional revisions you made. I'll make a motion to approve the advertisement, for the legal advertisement of draft ordinance. Do I have a second? Any other board comment?
Yeah, I said before, I just think we have a lot of boards as it is, I'm not sure we need to get another board, that's my. Stretching our stand.
Is there any additional comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'm all in favor of approving the motion for legal advertisement of draft ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Moving on to departmental reports. Is there anything the board or Don that you want to pull out or?
Nothing for me. John and I will answer any questions that you have.
Is there any questions?
So I'm just, I mean, I don't know if I can bring it up now, but just a specific question concerning the because the Keystone. I was on the website and actually asked Eric about this. I want to make it really easy for residents to be able to find the IT information. Is the letter sent out, which we all received, I assume. I thought it was very general, so we're going to want to go right away to the website and not click too many places. So if there's a way to put something on there, then whether it's right at the top to the IT information or for residents, I thought that would be very helpful. Rather than, because I didn't find it at first, and then Eric searched for it using EIT East Township. Then it came up, so I just wanted to make it so it might be easy for the residents to find. It is new for everybody, and then you fielded a lot of questions that you mentioned, so I just thought it'd be something that we could do.
Okay, I mean, I'm open to suggestions. To me, it seems pretty straightforward. It didn't occur to me that it wouldn't be straightforward. There's a page on tax. It's one of the taxes listed.
I would just say, I was saying more like, you know how certain things are new on websites, and when you go to the website, there's something linked that somebody just press once and boom, there it is. I just think, some of our residents might be confused, not know what to do. I just thought it was something that might be easier for them. I'm not saying.
Open to suggestions. Tell us how. Like, to me, it seems. I think it's the opposite. I think your website has too much stuff on it, and it becomes cluttered, and it's hard to find it because every time somebody wants something just gets put on the website. Maybe that's one of the missions of this new board that we're creating. Like, I'm open to any change you want. I just don't. There's nothing that jumps out to me that says it would be better if you had done it this way.
And again, this is not a criticism. This is a recommendation just to have it clear. Like, I guess I'm looking under government. When I went to the site, didn't think about looking under government for it. Probably should have, but I see where it is. I just thought there might be something, since it is very.
Okay, we'll noodle on it. We'll try to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think seems like it's a navigability issue, like, I guess just navigating the site. I don't. I personally was able to find it very quickly, but I also appreciate that if people try to go to the website, maybe it's not a click away. I don't know how to fix that. I have technological abilities, so I have no place to provide advice on that, but I hear what Ron's saying. If you're.
Well, you hear it too. We'll noodle on it. We'll try to make it.
Any other board comment? Okay, moving on to regular business. First up is.
Sorry.
Did you want to say something?
No, I agree it's cluttered. It's just, like, I agree with what Don said, though. There's a lot of stuff on here. It's tough to organize it.
And maybe this is what for one of the tasks that the group can do, Eric. But the one that I got as public works director, was, hey, what day is trash day for me? Oh my goodness, if you can't find what day is trash day for me, like what else are we using the website for if not for that? So if you go to the, the brain can take 7 or 8 functions at a time, you log on to a page and you've got 60 on the, and what I've been, for better or for worse, the solution for me has not been to have 61. Because after that solution 4 or 5 times, you're not close to the solution further from. So we'll noodle on this one in particular. We'll try to make it better, and then maybe this becomes one of the things that the group does.
Yeah, and that actually sounds like what they could do is advise a search that we're sure I did that. Like I said, I was able to find it very quickly, just like a Google search, but I appreciate that maybe other people can do that. And also, like you said, there's a lot of stuff on the websites. Maybe there's a way to get that stuff down. So it's
Yeah,
easier.
we've been trying to make it simpler and easier, not more complex.
So again, so I guess my one comment is, and I think it's kind of confusing there. When things happen that are new, sometimes a link gets put up temporarily. So it could be like EIT is one of the links right at the top. Someone clicks on it, boom, there it is. I think, I don't know, I'm coming from like my school website, like when something's new, it's like right there. And then they take it down. So that's all I'm saying. It's
And
just,
we've had that as one of the links. And for better or for worse, we are taking them down. So nothing is
Right.
staying up there.
Right.
It's up there for a while.
that's
and then it
all,
comes down.
that's all I'm
So it
saying.
was up there.
Like trash and recycling is right there. Like I can just click on it. There it is. I see a trash can. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, you have senior citizens that go on and they're just not as savvy sometimes with certain things and they just want one click. I found it pretty easy though. No, I'm not saying it's, I guess my point is it's new and you're fielding calls about it. It might be like someone go to the website and just find it like that. Like I just went to the search and put EIT in the little search and yeah, I mean, if there's a little public notice, there's a bunch of things that pop up. So
Okay, we'll
I'm
try
not
to
trying to
do
make a
it.
big deal, just need something to make it easy for the public, that's all.
Any other comment or? Moving on to regular business. First up is boards and commissions, liaison assignments. Just kind of want to get a temperature from the board as to whether people want to keep the same assignments, move assignments around. There's nothing wrong with keeping assignments as is, but if people want to move around, so that was. I think we're fine. Keep it.
I'm fine with it, unless anyone feels swamped or like they have too many, need to redistribute.
Well, it sounds like we can always defer decision to January 20th. If everyone has a change of heart. Once they've mixed some things up, we can revisit the issue now. And then keep current liaison assignments as is, and they're so.
Now, absolute new action. I think everybody retains their post.
Along with that, does anyone have any hardships with the updated schedule? I know a few of them got kind of doubled up on, like I have one, which is the stormwater and the EMA that are now gonna be stacked on one day, which is fine. I can make it work, but I don't know if anyone else is gonna have trouble with that. Just another thing to take a look at. It may have changed.
All right, so I think we all agree with our schedules. So there are changes out of mind. But that's good. So
And hopefully those changes should make it easier, stacking it should make it easier for you. Not hard to execute.
Yeah, that was John's call. Okay, very good. Moving on to this item, which is 2025 Board of Supervisor projects.
Yeah, so this is just a continuation of what you did in 24. The first paragraph is the 7 things that you identified, Alex took the lead and sort of brought that to you. I'm taking that as those are your 7 priorities. The next paragraph is my snapshot of what's been done and not done. And then the key to me is there's sort of like some open-ended policy things that we need your input on. I don't know that we need to have them tonight. But maybe the next step, maybe the next, like, what I gotta do is I gotta keep it tangible. You say concept, town center, I gotta convert that into a set of actions that one day produces a town center. So what we could do is really maybe the two next steps. First concern I have is that absent some kind of broader thinking, the unallocated EIT funds will just get spent on the first thing that comes as opposed to your priority. So like you did in when you made the commitment, when you said you wanted to have EIT as an ordinance item, among the things that you had before you voted, was a general distribution of how the funds would be used. And maybe something like that is a tangible next step, which is a general distribution. Because even just the building and the fire could exhaust the unallocated amount. So then that kind of lends itself to an approach that arguably sets a cap, meaning that, hey, this is how much money we have. These are the priorities within that. So that's one item that could be a tangible deliverable. And then the next would be each of those 7 items has to have some specific next steps, not every single step to achieve the final outcome, but what are 2 or 3 tangible next steps to get progress toward the outcomes. So those are the things that I think I got to deliver to you to keep your 7 priorities moving. And then the items that I identified as key questions are kind of input that I want from you, because they're gonna inform those tangible next steps. I hope that made sense. I hope it wasn't just me talking.
It definitely makes sense. It's a good continuation of the discussion we had with Alex, bringing this to the table, we've had on this the way it is. That maybe is something we can all kind of chew on a little bit and come back. I don't know if you want answers by a bit sooner rather than later.
Yeah, sooner rather than later, but there's no urgency whatsoever. I mean, last year you had 2025 projects on almost every single one of your agendas. And you just, like you made, as noted, you made some very sizable, you made more progress in sidewalks you made a lot of progress in a very short period of time. So we'll keep it going like that. And I could come back to you with what I believe are the tangible next steps for each of those 7. I think it has an incremental approach though. So if we had talked about this one, like for sidewalks, it was suggested, hey, let's come up with a $120 million sidewalk program. Somebody else said, hey, why don't we come up with 2 projects? If you want $120 million, that was going to be a little harder. If you want 2 projects, we're ready to tell you what the next 2 or 3 steps are. I don't want to take it in a direction that I want it to take it in the direction that you want to take and not that I want to take. So that's the nature of why I've put the unanswered questions to you. Maybe they're there, you can noodle on them and we can discuss those questions at the next meeting on the 21st.
I think that's a good idea. Sort of think a little more strategic.
Yes.
I think that's a good approach. Does everyone have anything to that?
Yeah, this is gonna take multiple meetings for us to hone in on. I mean, some of the stuff is extraordinarily expensive. So it's gonna take us a while to decide on any of that, but I think even just at the planning level, hey, we think we wanna do something for a town square or open space, whatever it is. Yes, I think.
And as for example, if that's a priority, you've got to allocate some money to that.
Yes.
Not allocate the money to other things so that by the time you decide if you're ready to build a town square, there's no funds allocated.
Agreed.
Okay, so we'll just try to keep that moving, making it more tangible every 2 weeks or so. And grow organically until you tell me otherwise.
Very good. Thank you, Dom. Next up is the Historic Resource Preservation Ordinance. This is item, Sean, we wanted to add to the agenda. Maybe you can kind of
This is an item that the HCAS moved to bring to the board related to demolition in Berwyn Village. And is here for the city, will speak more towards it.
Sure, we were, there was a demolition at, I think, 708 Berwyn Avenue, 709 Berwyn Avenue. And we were pretty stunned because, or blindsided, because in our responsibilities, it says that, we will shall cooperate with and advise the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission and all other township officials and agencies in relation to the exterior renovation, rehabilitation, preservation, protection, and adaptive reuse and restoration of significant historical structures and sites, as well as any proposed demolition. It's in chapter 13, article 4, under responsibilities. Okay, and when you go to the zoning ordinance, it doesn't say that we have to review all demolitions in the village of Berwyn. So it's like not consistent.
So it's not a historical property, but it's a building.
It's in the village of Berwyn.
You are the sovereign, you decide what you want. My recollection is that it was purposeful, what Anne is objecting to was purposeful, that doesn't make it right, it means it was purposeful. So you can have in a typical project in Berwyn, you can have 12 permits issued. And the revisions that you made call for a single pass at the HC. My recollection is that was discussed specifically that what you didn't want was every time a new permit is applied for, there's another pass before the HC. So there's a single pass before it. The demolition permit for this type of project is not where we understand that pass would occur, in large part because the demolition phase doesn't contain any of the reconstruction phase. So the intention was, because we believe it's what you told us to do. It's not, this was our idea and when we did it this way. We did it this way because we believe you told us to do it this way. That there's a single pass and that single pass would come at the building phase of the building phase of the project. If it had been a historic asset, then it would have been inverted in the manner that Anne was asking to change.
That hasn't changed. The demolition permits for historical resources still not the way to.
Yes.
Class one.
Yes.
We're looking at,
But just briefly, what the board did do in that omnibus ordinance was it created for the first time in the village, even if you weren't a class 1 or 2, the board amended the ordinance to have a pass-through to the commission for exterior renovations, if they're within public view, which was defined as front facade, if you're in front of the facade facing the street, are you changing the facade? Or if you're expanding to the sides, you may increase the facade, and similarly, new construction. So in the ordinance, that's clear that new construction anywhere in a VB and exterior renovations, if it's got that public view component, runs by the commission. But demolition, the written ordinance talks about class 1 and 2. So I think that's where it is legislatively right now.
okay,
Not that that's how it should be if the board
Right.
wants to change it, but that's what I think.
I
it
mean,
is.
there's a little man sitting somewhere in front of a computer, going through the interactive map, going, this are all things I can buy and demolish in 30 days or 45 days, whatever it is. So I think it's a problem. I don't know what you think, but you know, we're talking to people about their fences. And here we go, just, you know,
But you demolish property, if he's gonna build it, with your advice, right? You can't just build anything he wants, he has to get start commission.
True, but, true,
Okay.
but
That's what we're
you're
talking
totally changing you will totally change the feel vibe of the Village of Berlin. If we allow people to just come in, do demolitions, and then come to us. It makes pretty much no sense to us.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection is with Michael's, I think this was a very deliberate ordinance. But I don't know if that was meant to be clear.
And I'm
Yeah.
confused by what you just said. I thought that the process generally, like, they would get the plans approved before they do the first demolition and not the plans.
No, there's no, there's nothing outlined with that specificity.
Yeah, but I
So,
had that.
yeah, but the dilemma with that approach, I, as the outsider looking in, I think you viewed it as, or not you as, I think the group viewed it as, hey, here's the pass. But there are multiple permits. The permit became the trigger. The key distinction that Andy made is that this is a change to all structures, not just the historic. So previously, anything could be done with no oversight at all. The oversight here was provided on the construction of this asset, not the demo of it.
I mean, the defense to this would be if there are structures within the Village of Berlin that add to the aesthetic nature and historic character and meet the criteria, it should be added as a class 1 or class 2 historic structure. I think that gives you that, ability to then look at the demolition permit for the property that's demolished. The idea would be it skips over, a mid-century modern home that was built in 1962 that's dilapidated. The developer comes in, buys it, demolishes it, and then has to build a new structure, go in front of the historical commission and show what they want to do and build it, to kind of seek approval and consensus with that. But they wouldn't have to get your permission to demolish that 1962 mid-century modern that has no historic connection to the Village of Berlin. If there's a 1906 structure that's not on the, on your register, well, you should seriously consider revising it to add it to the register then, if it's gonna be a problem if they demolish it. So I think that's gotta be the defense to that, but I think it was very deliberate on our part to try to reduce the amount of, let's say, unnecessary steps for demolition permits that you guys really don't have much interest in, or should not have much interest in.
Bill Freeburg, 425 Newtown Road, Historic Commission. Andy correctly said section D talks about exterior renovations. Section E talks about new construction. Section F talks about demolition. That's an inconsistent. We're talking about exterior renovations. Well, demolition is a pretty severe external renovation. And so it's an inconsistency in the zoning ordinance, and it's not consistent with our responsibilities elsewhere in the, the responsibilities of the and it also creates, and I think as Anna said, it creates an incentive for somebody to come in and say, look what you let them do. Now you've got to let me do it. Same thing happened with 729 and 749 First Avenue across from the library. There you've got one house put in 4 houses because the same builder with the same lawyer said, you let me do it down the street. Same thing's gonna possibly happen here. And so are we setting up a precedent? Is there any instruction that we can do that allows the planning department to at least alert us when these things are occurring? We found out about it because one of our members was walking his dog on the street. And so what happened to the building? We had no notion that there was even a proposal to knock down the building. A lot of those buildings were built within 5 years of each other along that street. 708 is on our list. 709 was not, because the guidance that we had from previous administrations was to cut it off at a certain time period. We have some 80 properties that we're looking at that are all built within 5 or 10 years of that are contributing structures, and eventually will be added to the list. We're working on this.
Again, I may not fully understand it, but it seems to be adding to the list is the way to go. It's like, I think like, isn't it 50 years now or 25? I mean, it's a short time frame.
Right.
Yeah, it's a real short time.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I mean, we have to be intentional about it, we have to get it done.
Right.
But I think the supervisor, what you were saying makes sense.
But you guys also have discretion too, right? Like, it's not purely scientific, like, you know, here's 6 criteria and you have to match 3 out of the 6. So you guys do have discretion that, you know, we think that this should be added despite not meeting our typical criteria. So if it's borderline, like, oh, this is, you know, 4 years away from being 100 or 3 years away from being 50, like, we still think it needs to be added. I just think that's the best defense to making sure that this doesn't happen in the future, to a structure that you guys think is valuable. Otherwise, the alternative is you guys get every demolition permit that happens in the village per win. Is that what you guys would prefer to happen?
How many are there?
Question for you guys.
I don't think there's too many. I don't think that's the issue. I think, this, you know, you tell me, like, I'm trying to help you all. I'm trying to empower you, not get in your way. But the dilemma is your permit is, your trigger is permit. And you specifically state 1 review. So therein is a disconnect because you can have 10 reviews, you can have 10 permits. And they do want to see, they don't want the electrical box from Pico put in the front yard when it can be put inside. So for the resources that are specifically identified, that first permit is the trigger. For the resources that, for the properties that aren't specifically identified, the logical place is at the building, because that's the only time that the people who, no one knows what they don't have what they're gonna put there, they don't have. So you have to have multiple permits. And then you specifically decided otherwise when you wrote the ordinance. And that was a long time ago. I was part of it. I recall that this exact discussion came up. That you were concerned that you can't send a property owner of a resource that isn't annotated as historic to the historic commission every time a permit is issued. You could delay a porch by 7 months, you know, if you did that.
And
It was
those
frustrating.
discussions were in the context of renovations. It was never part of a demolition discussion for the number of permits. So N equals 1 was for exterior renovations because we want to be the friend of the homeowner.
Well,
And
yeah, and the other issue too is that PC is also involved too.
I think they're out, right? That's my recollection.
Not reviewing the historics, but they're part of the development process.
Well, they're gonna be part of Saldo,
Right.
but they're not involved in this. This function has appropriately gravitated.
architectural details. on
Yes, has gravitated to the historic commission.
But if the single has to demo and put lights, there's more involvement in that.
Correct,
If it's only young people who use the dark,
correct.
it's historic, they get involved in demo, they get involved in the
Yes.
building. It's not historic right now, they don't get involved in demo, they do get involved in the building.
Yes,
If it's a land development, so 2 or more residential structures, then everybody.
Right.
Single lot.
But the way I just described it, it makes sense to me. If it's not on the historical register. And somebody wants to demo it, I want to say I don't have a problem with that. Because it's not a historic structure, I don't want to get in the way of people doing stuff with their property.
and that was, again, whether right or wrong, that was purposeful because it was in the context of you didn't create a. You know, and that came up, should you create a district like Cape May with and you chose not to. So this was the compromise that you chose, the purposeful compromise that you chose.
Yeah, I think Sean just wanted to bring this to our attention. I mean, if there's a proposal to be made, I'm sure the board would hear the proposal, but yeah, I think, you know, kind of rehash. I remember being part of that.
Yes. There's nothing that would prevent us on the staff level from improving our communication with you on demo permits.
We had that conversation, like when Colin started,
Okay, so
and it,
very
nothing,
good. I'm not backing away from the statement. There's nothing that will, it doesn't mean everything went perfectly the way you went, but we can, that's not hard for us to have regular communication. And on your part, Colleen returns every single call you ever and very promptly, so.
I don't have a problem with that, except when something like this happens.
Yeah,
I
except
mean-
something like this happened because that's the law. We follow the procedure that you said.
So the old Canvas property, it might be getting, you know, if you don't care, right? That's not a start, top, so.
Correct, none of those properties are even, we have almost 80 properties that were ready to add to the list, this was one of them.
Right,
With
right,
the paperwork done, we're almost ready to begin the
I
process.
get that, I get that.
Those properties are not on that, so, yeah. But there was extensive comment on the design, et cetera, and I think that generated a lot of the need for some of the amendments that we made with the omnibus.
So do you not have the resources to get everything on them, like, we need to give you more resources to get all the properties registered?
So-
Yes.
Yes, there is something called a historic resource. You get professionals, they come in, they do everything. So that you get, like, this actually was missed the last time. As was 400 Leopard Road missed. Like, that's because we're doing it.
Okay.
And,
Okay, but.
or it would have been on there.
Let's get it done.
It only takes money.
Right, right,
And there are grants out there, but we need money.
right, but unfortunately, we budget year by year, so we already budgeted for 2025.
And
Make sure we
I've
budget.
asked for money 2 times, twice.
Whatever he asked was keeping.
I don't recall saying, oh, there's something about
So when someone asks for something, it doesn't go into your budget unless somebody is a champion for it. So I don't recall anything, but it goes in when you all decide you want something like that.
If I remember correctly, it was a late ask for, when you said it to me, you had mentioned, oh, I forgot, what about the budget? It was like, was it 75,000? Is that,
Something like,
I
yeah,
think it was around
probably.
that, and I know I sent that through. But it was late in the process. But I know,
Yeah,
But we were never asked for a budget. We were never asked to present our budget. Somebody forgot us.
I don't know that that's true, but we follow on it. I mean, we have an annual cycle. This is, I believe you're doing it. You are empowered, and ABC is empowered if they follow that regular process. It's better than when you just sort of ask for money at one time. So, you know, the key would be to establish that as a desire for 2026. And then one of you has to want it to be a good idea. Nothing happens without a champion. They are championing it from their board to you. Someone here has to think it's a good idea. You don't want me putting in the input from the groups. It's your money, you want your group to do it.
I mean, if we see it as a priority and we want to expedite it, we can do it this year. We can find the money somewhere and move it around and make it work too. So if we want to do it, we could.
Yes, there's always opportunity for that, particularly on this scale. Now it's a zero-sum game at this point, so it would come out of something else.
You do have a process that's already in place in the ordinance, I think. It's the question of the resources to make sure if you're adding to the list that it's defensible and it's,
Yeah.
and the historic record is accurate, but basically the commission prepares the proposal. And Eric, maybe this is what you're also talking about with PC's involvement. If you're adding properties to the list, the PC also reviews it. It ultimately goes to all of you for final board approval, whether it gets listed. And if you want to move forward with it before you approve, you now have a process where the property owner gets notified. And that's in part because many years ago, when that list was first developed, I think the township had property owners not knowing they were on the list. So the transparency is good for you and also for the realtors when they're marketing, you've got a list that everybody knows they're on. But you have that ready today. It's really, I think it's the question of the resources to be comfortable with your additions. And the county helped you last time around, and they there was a map that went into the comprehensive plan. It was like the last iteration.
Right, the county, well, yeah, you guys, I mean, we gave you the list and then it came up on the map. I don't know what happened between that.
But in terms of the history, didn't the county help with those?
They helped with the original 100 from the 1979, 1980. We
Right.
did everything for the 2018.
Okay,
and we're working with guidance for a cutoff
For the
time
new-
period.
Yeah.
And you can have four houses on the same street, built by the same person 5 years apart. 2 are on the list and 2 are not, and they all look the same. And so we're trying to rectify that, and we have some 80 examples of that, we'd like to get the process going. We worked with John, he says it's gonna take about 6 months, and, so he's already told us kind of what the steps are. We're trying to make sure we have enough documentation, so that when the notification goes out to the public, that the answer to the head is waiting like that, rather than the other way around. We established a criteria with the zoning ordinance that was in effect in November, so that now we are able to more clearly explain to somebody why something should be considered historic. So we think we have a lot more cred with a homeowner and et cetera.
So that should resolve in theory 80-90% of the similar circumstances like this, right? It'll take a little while.
Yeah, we've been taking the steps. Without the criteria, it was hard to go to a big expansion like that.
Can we do anything in the meantime, so that demolition, between now and the time we hold these properties listed? You know, by the demolition permits or something.
Yeah, let me talk to Colleen, we'll figure something out. I don't think it'd be much of an issue.
These are the.
Yeah.
Should check to see if they're on the register coming from. Is that
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
mean?
And I have a spreadsheet that has all 100 or so that we want to add, whether or not they're in the village.
It won't change anything, like you have to issue the demo permit, so, you'll have information, but it's not gonna. Unless you tell us otherwise, we can't withhold the demo permit.
Right.
From Walter.
Want to be notified?
Yeah, we don't wanna just be blindsided every time it happens.
We can-
You may not be able to
That's
do
not-
anything, but still maybe demo.
I would like to, can we have a meeting about getting things on to the list? And how, what's the best way for us to do it and present it?
So John is as smart as they come in this sort of thing. He will guide you through that. The solution to me is to take that to this becomes a 2025 to figure out what you have to do in 2026 to achieve that outcome. So the outcome is pretty clear. John's very sophisticated. He can work with you in the organic process. The deliverable is, what do you need to ask the board for in 2026 to achieve the outcome that you want?
No, I mean, once we have these, some of these are ready to go, some of these additional properties. Would like to know the format, what,
So again,
because we don't want it to be going back
John
and
is
forth.
the one, John will,
Okay.
between his knowledge of the general subject area
Okay,
and his capability to understand our code,
okay,
he will guide you through that.
Okay.
And he will come up, you can do that organically at the HC with your deliverable, as I would see it, your deliverable is fall, where you tell the board what you want in 2026 to achieve that outcome.
And I would just say procedurally under the ordinance, if you have a basket of them that are ready to go and you've got the documentation, I think you could move forward on that now with almost no cost. It's really, if you've got 60 of them that require an analysis as to age and architect and vernacular and all that, but if you had, let's say, 10 ready to go, the ordinance process is.
And that's the thing that John will help you
Okay.
work through that.
okay,
The HC, to me, that's your venue to do that.
okay. All right, I will get a meeting set up, just because I want to have a format that we do, comes to you, done. Not a lot of problems. They're going back and forth.
John, anything to add? You got anything?
No, I think you covered it. It's a good discussion, but I think we have a path forward here.
Thank you.
Good, moving on to public comment. So have any public comment? Moving on to announcements. Upcoming meetings and events. Meetings are scheduled to be held in the township building unless otherwise noted. January 7th is the planning commission meeting at 7 p.m. February 8th is the historical commission, 7 p.m. February 13th is the Freestone Citizens Advisory Committee at 6:15 p.m. January 14th is the stormwater management committee, 6:15 p.m. And then following that is the EMA meeting at 7:15 p.m. January 16th is the ZHP meeting at 7 p.m. And on January 21st is the next board of supervisors meeting at 7 p.m. The EAC's next repair cafe will be held on Saturday, January 18th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Trinity Presbyterian Church. Some announcements, like motion to adjourn. Second.